most of us think about but don't follow through. Those who have saved thousands of lives. Next week is National Donor Awareness Week, and now we're about to meet a family who became donors and changed the life of one man.
We had a choice of places. It was not long.
We had a son for 10 years. I'm not going to ignore that fact. And if other people feel uncomfortable about me talking about my son as a proud dad would, then it's their tough luck.
3 years ago, Ben Harrison died from complications after an operation. His death saved this man's life.
For me.
How does it feel when you look at the photo of Ben? What do you think?
Well, I've been lucky enough to see videos of Ben as well, and it's very hard to put it into words, because he was 10, you know, and it's a terrible young. I mean, I thought that if I'd have died of a heart attack at 52, I'd have been robbed of life. Well, there's a 10-year-old that, you know, had no chance. He lived a quality life for 9 years, I know, from reading about Ben. But he was behind the 8 ball to start with.
What have we got here?
Chicken with red wine and tomato.
Oh, must be Wednesday.
I don't drink though.
This isn't your ordinary get-together. It's a reunion of two families whose lives changed forever in May 1993. For the Harrisons, tragedy, a lost son, a lost brother. For the Ridouts, relief, a second chance at life.
My initial thought wasn't for the donor. It was, I think, a human frailty that my first thought was for me and for my family, and that was it. And it's only on reflection that after the operation that I was sort of really wanted to find out who, in fact, had donated the kidney.
And Elaine said, guess what? David rang. And I was thinking of all the Davids I know, and I went through them. She said, no, David rang. And I said, you're joking, our David.
He just asked, said Elaine Harrison, yes. You had a son named Ben? And I said, yes. And he said, well, I got a kidney 2.5 years ago. And I thought, well, geez, that sounds like he must be the recipient, I guess. It's 10 years.
By law, donors and recipients' names cannot be released. Yet sometimes fate decides otherwise. For David, fate was hearing Graham's story on a radio interview and later reading it in a magazine. It was all too familiar, too uncanny.
And suddenly we had the initials, and we just looked for a G and E Harrison in the phone book, and we found that there was something in the region of about 150 G Harrisons. So we started to telephone, and after a while, when you sort of said, we're trying to contact a Graham and Elaine Harrison, blah, blah, it got a bit much, but eventually, bingo.
But sometimes, when you find what you're looking for, you also find fear.
One thing I was dreading was Elaine rushing up to me and hugging me and saying, you know, now I'm going to hug part of my son.
Well, I suppose I didn't feel like we were meeting a part of our son. It was just a gift that came from him that we gave to David.
For Elaine and David, the meeting was easier than thought. It was the men who found it hard. They decided to meet first, on neutral ground.
I couldn't believe what I was talking about and who I was talking to. And it all seemed terribly unreal until at the end we both had a good cry.
And the restaurant was absolutely packed, and there's these two grown men holding one another's hand, bawling our eyes out, and we really didn't give a damn about anybody.
But it was really a very moving time, and I went back to work, and I can't say that I couldn't really concentrate for the rest of the day. And
it was spine-tingling, it was, that particular time. It meant so much.
There'll always be a part of Ben, literally, in my life. Not just my kidney, but he's been gracious enough to donate, but in my heart.